So here we are with all of you. But what I found very, very interesting after the book was done and after the illustrations were done, and we have to speak about the illustrators right now. It is Pallavi Jain and Vaijayanthi who, this is a book of 4 collaborators, 2 authors and 2 illustrators. We had Vaijayanthi who did the storyboard for the book, and we have Pallavi Jain who has taken the taken the storyboard and redone the illustrations and magnificently colored them in watercolors. And I will always say that a picture book comes to life only through the illustrations, you know. The text is there, but the text is brought to life by the wonderful illustrations. So Pallavi is watching us on Zoom. I hope Vaijayanthi is also watching us. Thank you, Pallavi, for this beautiful book. But as I was researching about Rasam and this very, very common dish which I thought I knew all about, I discovered so many things about it. But not enough as much as the person whom we've invited today to be our guest to receive the copy of the book, which is Rakesh Raghunathan and his mother, Raghunathan. You know, I went to Rakesh's website, and I was blown away. I mean, I wanted to be on his Puliyodare trail, and I wanted to know all about his temple prasadams, and I wanted to really, you know, catch him cooking and taste it. For those of you who don't know Rakesh, I have also learnt a few interesting descriptives from his bio. One being a food raconteur. Wow. Which means that he has so many anecdotes to share, not just about food, but the travels of food. And his mother, and I hear you sing as well. Yeah. So he sings as he cooks, as he serves, and his mother with him also does all of that. And together they have a channel which is called Ammavum Nanum, where they cook together, which I have yet to see. But we are so honored to have you with us, Rakesh. And we want to present our first copy of the book, hot from the press, to both you and your mother. Just so that we can...
The author's in December. Yes.
Okay. And I invite Rakesh now to delight us with stories about Rasam.
Thank you very much. I see a lot of familiar faces. So Paati's Rasam, like you said, for some it may invoke memorable nostalgia. For some it may be like, oh my god, my grandmother just couldn't cook. But for me, I think what stands out is flavorful nostalgia, right? And that is really the beauty about food. I mean, food has that ability to take you back in time. Like even today when I come down and enter the kitchen, there's that familiar smell of Amma roasting that cumin and pepper, or that asafoetida that goes into the tempering. And that waft really transports you back in time. It's like, you know, you imagine, only thing absent there is Paati, but it's just that smell that invokes imageries that is so beautiful. Conversations that you had with her in the kitchen, Paati telling me about all her childhood stories, how she learned cooking, the interesting utensils that she used for certain recipes, and that's really the beauty. And I'm sure every family will also have that one recipe very, very close to them, right? And it's made on special days. And invariably the dinner table conversations will revolve around that. So it's almost that person may have passed on, but you almost sort of relive it. That person is immortal through that one recipe that he or she has put together. And I think Rasam truly is an emotion. And I mean, like how you say Madras is an emotion, I think Rasam is, and it's just got different varieties everywhere. Like every nook and corner has a different rasam. And I think I can take the liberty in saying that the rasam that we are all exposed to is probably a recipe that came out of sheer abundance. But I actually came across a rasam during one of my travels to document food from the Konkanadu region. It had a very interesting story, very profound experience when I read about it. And I thought I should share that here today. So when on one of my trips in one of the communities that I interacted with, they told me about this rasam called the Pacha Puli Rasam. Okay, for those of you who may not understand Tamil, Pacha Puli Rasam is a raw tamarind rasam. The way they do it is water, they soak like a huge ball of tamarind. They don't extract the tamarind like you would for rasam or sambar, but just let it steep there and they remove the tamarind. They add lots of shallots, curry leaves, sambar powder or rasam powder, some salt. It's just mixed and served. There's no tempering, there's no boiling. And I asked that person, I said, why do you even make this recipe? Like, how do you make this recipe? He just said, I don't know. This is something we make on all festive days over several generations, and this is what my ancestors taught me. I said, okay, I'm sure there's this missing piece to a puzzle somewhere. So I went up and read about the history. And this I'm talking about is the Konkanadu region, which is the modern day Salem, Erode, Tirupur, Coimbatore, and that bit. So going up and reading, I got to understand that the entire region at one point of time was poverty struck. And it so happens the lady of the house, and again not to stereotype, had to feed a large family, but she couldn't afford money to buy firewood. So she could just come up with recipes like this and feed the family. So this, again, I thought there was a beautiful emotion here. The one in Paati's rasam being lot of abundance there, lot of love, a recipe born out of opulent ingredients that you may find. Whereas in this case, it's almost like saying adversity is the mother of all inventions, right? And I thought that was a beautiful narrative to share. And rasam today has morphed into something. Like you can take the humble pepper water that was there, which is Melaga rasam, that's gone on to become a global phenomenon, which is the Melaga Tani soup. Melaga Tani. No, and it's so exotic. So the Britishers, they went to the native cooks and said, make us a soup. There's no culinary history. We have the closest soup that we have is the shorba, which is a Mughal influenced recipe that they make. So these guys, all they knew was the rasam. So they toned down the spice level, added a wedge of lemon, threw in some rice and served it to them with some pepper. And that was born right here. So that's gone on to become a world, a phenomenon across the globe where, you have French cooking techniques. They use different kinds of roux, arrowroot flour, cornmeal, almond flour, and there are references to the Malagatari soup being made with raisins and green apples, even elephant meat and peacock meat. Yeah, that's how exotic it was back then.
And what? Peacock what?
Peacock meat.
Oh my God.
Yeah. That's how exotic it was back then. And of course, you have the modern rasams today. You have a goji berry rasam, you have cranberry, you have different kinds of seafood and meat rasams. You have pineapple, you have rasams with vodka shots today to spike up your experience. And that is the beauty about food, right? And it sort of cuts across all layers and told in a very beautiful way by the two of you. I read the book. Janaki being the brilliant storyteller she is, and Dhwani being a food nerd, if I can call you that.
I like that, thank you.
It's just right that both of you come up with more such books where you showcase food, where food actually tells the stories of how people come together. And that's what I have to say. Thank you guys, thank you very much.
So, when we discussed this book, Janaki, I remember how immediately I liked it, right? And it was not even discussed as a book, actually. You want to tell us how this came about?
So I think this was 2018. I had just hello, yeah, started. I just come back from Kohima. In fact, hello, check. So while I was on the bus, I think to the airport in this truck van full of storytellers, I just looked out of the window and suddenly it hit me that what if one day a child loses the recipe to a dish, a rasam, and what does she do? And this idea just came by, and then I said, maybe I should make the rasam. I don't know what I was going through at that point of time. And then I remember calling Dhwani and telling her that I had this idea, and that's about it. Then Shobha and I always have at least one chai or meal, once in 2 months, whenever we get the time. And I still remember, it was pumpkin days. I still remember the table. I don't remember what we ordered. So we were having a conversation, and I just told Shobha, I had this idea, and this is all she said is, write it. I said, Shobha, I just an idea, write it. Shobha, and I kind of just let it slip, but in the end, when we were, going away from the restaurant, she said, don't forget that story. It's a beautiful story. So, thank you, Shobha, for, putting us through. I mean, of course, then I'll let Dhwani do a bit of how it went to her.
Yeah. No, Dhwani. So in Paati's Rasam, clearly it's told from the point of view of a child, and the child in the story is Malli, and Paati's Rasam ends up being Malli's Rasam at the end of the story. Are you the Malli in the story, Dhwani, and is this Paati your Paati whom we celebrate today, and are all the memories of the Rasam true, or are they fictional?
I am definitely Malli. I think so when I was about five, Paati and Tata actually moved across the road.
Right.
So I grew up with them. And I think a lot of what Malli goes through in the book is based on both me and my younger sister Dakshina. I think it's the both of us together. We both make Malli. And yeah, I think my party did make the best rasam. The rasam that is referenced, that is her recipe. And I, in fact, only when you asked me this question and we were talking about it the other day, I realized that after Paati passed away, which was in 2011, I actually stopped liking rasam that much. Yeah, I just realized, like, recently I started making it myself, and that's when I left it. But yeah, I used to eat only when my chitti made it. So I think a lot of what Malli went through is for the both of us together. We're very close to Paati.
So of course this story is about the search for this recipe of rasam, which Malli is very, very fond of, but is lost with the demise of the grandmother. And the story is therefore also about loss and grief and what we associate with the person who's gone, right? But to tell the story, I mean, it's a picture book. I mean, it's hardly 200 words or 300 at best. How do you write it together? I mean, what is the process there, Janaki?
Can I answer that?
Yeah.
So I think the draft that's finally come through is probably draft number 15. So that answers one set of questions. I think just writing this, of course we fought quite a bit, but it helped once we got a rhythm where she would just keep giving me ideas and I would write. And I think the shortest draft that we wrote at one point was still 550 words. So I think, I mean, for both of us to write it together, it made sense for us to realize who would do most of the writing. and who would think a little more. I mean, it's always a bit fluid, but having that sort of that guiding us throughout really helped. Yeah, I think that.
And I think with every draft, I mean, I still remember the first draft going to Shobha, and she said, she was very kind. She said there's too much of information, but she didn't stop us from writing. She said just let the ideas keep coming, because only if the ideas come you can chisel it. But every time we had such long conversations with Shobha, I would go to her. But what was so beautiful was even the process that, you know, because I think co-authors, you're wondering who's going to say what is the role each one is going to play. But, you know, I used to just go wander into, and both of us went back to Amma's home. And, you know, I think this entire, we used to have my friend Chandri, Arpita, who had Amma's Rasam. In fact, I'd like to mention that the good Rasam, Arpita used to call it no kachada Rasam. So there was no kachada, so she would say, otherwise there's a lot of things floating around. So what is this no kachada? Auntie, you make the best no kachada Rasam. So Amma used to, you know, say that everybody, you know, so we used to go off on a tangent, both of us, and say, do you remember when Chandrakant came for Varimarshi Ade? So I think it just went on, I think we kept on going down memory lane, which is what is very, very important while writing, especially a picture book. I don't know, something. And I think in that process, I think I discovered Amma. We used to ask Rekha, my sister, in Delhi, and call her and ask her, what do you think Amma would have put? What? Because I keep telling her that she inherited, I think she and Dhwani inherited all the cooking genes. Say so. And all of it, and then I think that process, and then, you know, when I used to tell Dhwani, she used to put it into 2 lines, 3 lines, and then of course came to me. Yes.
But it's interesting that you mentioned this. The good rasam is what is Paati's rasam for Malli, except that I think it is the good rasam which Paati wrote as the good rasam, because I couldn't find anything called the good rasam. And I think Paati wrote it because Malli would better understand the good. And of course, when I read through the recipe of the good rasam, it was not particularly something that, because it had 3 spoons of sugar. And I was thinking, this is a Gujarati rasam. You know, and probably that's why Malli liked it so much.
Yeah, we both love having, like, adding a spoon of sugar to whatever we make.
Oh God!
You won't know most of the time, at least.
Yeah, and with regards to this Bagair ka chide ka rasam, is that you know, I've been a little under the weather the past couple of days, and my brother sent me a flask of rasam from his home, and the rasam was really, I mean, all your sinuses opened up with the rasam, but it was full of, we call it haspus. It had all kinds of things which you had to keep picking, and then I had to drain the rasam in one tea alcohol, you know, before I could possibly drink it. Yeah, but Rakesh, I was also thinking that you know, you could have. I know you mentioned certain numbers of rasams, and we do have a little note at the end of the book which Dhwani wrote so beautifully about about rasam itself and about our connections to this very ordinary, what we call an ordinary dish. But tell me, Janaki and Dhwani, and this question is for both of you, did you think that writing a story which in your mind was a very straightforward and natural story was as difficult as it turned out to be in terms of
Quite, I think it is, like Dhwani was mentioning,
it's very, you have to be very focused. And you know, both of us working and finding out, you have to be dedicated, and every day, like you always say, you have to sit and write. You have to sit, and you can't say, oh, today I don't have any ideas. There's nothing like today I don't have ideas. The ideas will come if you dedicate time towards it. And I think that is when, and to also understand that it's going to be a picture book.
Right.
And it's not going to be a chapter book. It's going to, there's going to be a fine balance between minimal text and beautiful.
So which comes to, what did you think of Pallavi's and Vaijayanthi's illustrations in the book?
It's brilliant. I mean, all of you have to see it. I just spoke to Pallavi this morning and told her how beautifully she's brought out the emotions. And I have attended a couple of workshops that Shobha does on picture books, and that's when she always says the pictures have to do the talking. The text is there to support, but sometimes I think the picture book is more for adults than children. If you just remove, you know, one of those days when you don't know what to do about certain things, you just take a picture book, and it sometimes just feels magical, you know. There are so many things that you've not noticed it the first time round. So I think the illustrations are fabulous, and thank you, Shobha, for sharing it with us time to time, saying she would just give us a sneak peek, and I would say, can you show us more? She said, no, I'll show you when it is ready.
I think what we really learned, and mainly from you, is you write a lot and then you realize how much of that you want to chop and let the pictures do the talking.
Mm-hmm.
So how much are you going to say without saying it?
Right.
And I think that, I don't think either of us are very good at that. So I think working on that, applying that mindset while writing the book was definitely difficult. And I don't think it was as straightforward a story as well, because while we had the idea, we had 25 different versions of how the book could end. And we were never, some of them were straight out of a Karan Johar film.
Right.
Some of them just didn't know where they had to go. And I think just agreeing on how the book would end, because we had something that built up so well and then we were just stuck.
Right.
Like, where do we go from here? So I think those 15 drafts also were because of the ending, and then to make the ending plausible, what if we change this and if we change that? I remember one particular draft which had something like 21 characters that we sent you. And now when I look back, I'm like, how could we? What were we thinking? So I think it was not as straightforward.
Actually, that's a really interesting thing you brought about. I'd forgotten that actually, because how do you end a story like this? Should Malli find the recipe, or should the rasam be lost forever, or should the rasam change its tone and flavor because it's no longer there, or should the rasam's recipe be pieced together by people who have experienced Paati and her rasam? And I know we went through so many different possible endings.
Many of the people here were featured in, I think, draft number 4.
That's true, yeah. That's true as well. All the chittis and the mamas and the attes and everybody made an appearance in the book. Yeah, that's true. So Janaki, this is your second book, and Dhwani, this is your partial first book. So will we have a full first book from you soon?
I would like to, but after having seen how much clarity you need before starting something, I am not going to attempt till I have at least 70% clarity in my head.
Yeah. And Janaki, I know your head is brimming with ideas for more books.
Yeah. In fact, I've written another book for Priya Play and Rishi this year. So thank you, Rishi. And lot of ideas. And another idea which I just told Shobha, she's again done the same thing. Write it. And this time as a chapter book, and it's there. So I don't know, now she's busy, so she's asked me. But I know that I'll have to complete. You know, what I love about Shobha is that she's able to, it's like the director of the movie, right? She can see the entire book in front, and we are able to see it only as an idea. So we'll keep having these conversations.
No, she makes it it's never so easy. It's never that I have the entire picture in front of me. It's just that with some books, you know the direction that it needs to go, or where too much is being said when very few words will do, you know. Yeah, and this was one such, because it was such a gentle book. It's really about the poignancy of loss, and the Rasam was just a little, what does one say, a tool or a device on which this entire thing was pivoted around, you know, this business about dealing with this child's loss of her grandmother. And that was what was far more attractive to me as a book than the Rasam itself. Okay. So thank you, Janaki and Dhwani, and we hope to do more books together. Hey, I did want you guys to read a passage or two. Can you get one book, please?
I'd like to start with a dedication to Amma, who taught us the meaning of food and love. That's me.
I would read mine.
Yes.
And my dedication is to Paati, who taught me the love language of food, and Janaki, who shares it with me.
For me, weekends meant fun. Her head massages, her engrossing stories, our endless banter. But what made my weekends most special was Paati's Rasam. Paati would gently ladle some hot rasam over the mountain of rice on my plate and top it off with a generous dollop of ghee. Paati, you're the best rasam maker. I'd squeal as I smacked my lips. I wish I could have it every day. Teach me how to make it. Someday, Malli, someday, she'd always say laughing. Promise? Yes, promise.
I'll read the next two pages. But then, one day, everything changed. Paati is now just a memory, and so are her massages, the fun we had, and her rasam. I feel like a rainbow without color.
I don't want to go to school, Amma, I say, throwing my bag on the sofa. I have to write an essay about something I love and take it to class on Monday. But I can't take Paati with me, can I? I ask, my voice breaking.
Stop there. Yeah. Stop. Yeah. All right. So that's Paati Rasam.
Paati ke liye, book ke liye. And to know more, the books are available.